Hello, 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 everyone. I'm going to wait for some people to come into the live chat. I hope all is well with you guys. This video, as you can see, is the title says, "Let me see your ID." Let me see your ID. So 2020, probably heard of this real ID. That's a requirement that we have to be in compliance with this whole new rule thing. So I want to talk a little bit about that first in this video. So anyway, I didn't have to do anything. Apparently, what I provided to the state of Maryland when I first moved here a couple of years ago was sufficient. So it said here, the Maryland Department of Transportation Motor Vehicle Administration records records indicate that you have already provided the necessary documentation to MBA to comply with federal real ID requirements. Okay. So I didn't have to do anything extra because I remember when I moved to the state, I had a lot of different forms I had to fill out. I had a lot of different forms I had to fill out and blah, blah, blah. So I didn't have to do anything to be in compliance for this 2020 Real ID rule that is effective October the 1st, 2020. So apparently it says here, it says your current driver license or identification card with the Real ID star in the upper right-hand corner is Real ID compliant and will allow you to access federal facilities, I'm assuming like museums or whatever, and board domestic flights when the Department of Homeland Security begins requiring a Real ID. Okay, so I'm going to show you that star that apparently lets the authorities know that your ID is real. So I'm going to protect my identification, but I am going to show you the star. You see that black star? Well, the white star and the black circle? That's what they're, or at least the state of Maryland, that's what they're looking for when you go somewhere or you're flying or you're going into some government facility or whatever like that. So apparently I don't have to do anything. Well, I will be moving from the state of Maryland in the near future. So I will have to go through this whole driver's license thing again. And I'm assuming when I go to the new state that everything that they need, they're going to require me to fill out then, so I don't have to deal with this in October the 1st. So just FYI, guys, this is for everyone, not just certain people. Everyone has to be in compliance with this Real ID thing. Hi, Audrey. Thanks for chiming in. Okay, so you say you just got the Georgia's driver's license. It costs $32 for 8 years. Okay. Let me see my driver's license. Hold on. Where did I put it? Mine is, it would have been valid until 2025. And I got this license March of 2018. So it's 7 years, yeah. So it's 7 years in the state of Maryland before you have to renew your license. So that's that. So just FYI, guys, this has nothing to do with citizenship type stuff as far as passports and things of that nature. I'm not sure. I don't know if this Real ID is sufficient when it comes to passports. Like, do you no longer need passports? Will that driver's license or Real ID be sufficient enough so you don't have to pull out your passport? I don't know. I'm assuming you still need your passport. Yeah. So do you have that star in the corner of your driver's license, Audrey? Similar to the star that I had on mine? Because again, that's the symbol that they're using, a star, to let them know that you're compliant with their rules for this real ID situation. And I got this letter September the 3rd. Well, yeah, I guess I did get it on September the 3rd. So there's gonna be a lot of disappointed people if they think this is just for certain people. No, everybody has to get a real ID. Or, you know, I don't know what would happen, but you just can't travel and do all that stuff that you would like to do. So I'm sure they're gonna be real anal about that too, coming October the 1st, pulling people over for stupid stuff and then asking for your real ID. Maybe, I don't know. But yeah, my passport actually, I think it expires 2020, I think. Let me see. Yeah, it expires June 18th, 2020. That's when my passport expires. So that's something to think about as well. But I'm actually looking forward to a new picture because, yeah, this picture was in 2010. And let's just say, if you looked at my videos back then, you know what I look like. So I'm ready to get a new passport picture. For real. Hope all is well with you guys. And another thing I wanted to talk about was real ID for everybody in this country. But then you have tribal IDs to identify your tribal connection. In my opinion, the tribal ID really is for people that's trying to get some sort of benefit from the federal government, and maybe even the local government. But for the rest of us, that's, in my opinion, it's more for, I guess, trying to seem legit or what's the word? Like the whole real ID, I guess the tribal card for some people makes them feel like real Native Americans. So sometimes it is a sense of pride because they have this card that says what community they're connected to and how more real they are compared to the next person. I think that in of itself is due to brainwashing and things of that nature. And it's unfortunate and it's sad. And I just feel like if you are getting a tribal card based on services from the federal government or your local government, that's one thing. But if you have a card because you want to flash it and it makes you feel bigger and taller than the next person, I think that's really sad. I think in and of itself, that is insecurity on that person's part. And all that does is continue the genocide, in my opinion. In my opinion, that's what I believe it does. And so this coming up census, outside of the real ID that I was just talking about with the driver's license. And again, guys, if you've kept up with me, you know how I feel about picking and choosing, right? Because I'm not just one thing. I'm not from just one community. You know, I have connections globally, right? Genetic connections globally. Culturally, not so much, right? Because culture is more like where you are most of your life and how you spend your time most days. That's outside of, let's say, obligations, and it's more connected to who you are as far as your identity. That's, to me, that's culture, which is outside of genetics. And sometimes you have genetics and culture and they blend and they coincide, and it is what it is. But for people that have been moved around centuries, hundreds of years ago, decades ago, and they kind of been moved around like chess pieces, it can get a little complicated. So yes, you're genetically connected to people on different continents in different parts of the world, but culture can be learned. That's where I'm going at. Culture can be learned. Genetics is genetics, but culture can be learned. And just because someone is introduced to their authentic culture and genetic connection to traditions that were not introduced to them at a younger age, that gives the next person no right to turn their nose up at them and treat them as inferior just because they were not brought up in that tradition from day one. So guess what? If you identify with being Indigenous American, because you are reclaiming your rightful place. I don't care how old you are. Step up. And so 2020, we have another census going out. And again, I hate to pick and choose, but when it comes to your Indigenous American identity, collectively, we need to reference that on these census records. Self-identify in that way. Because as soon as you put, and let's just put it out there, as soon as you put anything Black, everything else on paper based on some people's narrow-minded mentality, they will automatically put Black on everything. Now, of course, having that dark connection is strong. I'm not diluting the strength of that connection. I'm not diluting it at all. But at the same time, we must, I repeat, we must identify with that aspect of our genetic makeup. Because even though some of us have not been traditionally brought up that way, we must honor our ancestors who happen to be Indigenous American, period. Period. Honor them. Don't just say, oh, I got Indian blood in my family. Oh, we got some Indian blood. No, that's not good enough anymore. It never was, and it never will be. It's not good enough. I honor, you honor your Indigenous connection. And in this case, I'm talking about the Americas. Because I truly believe, and my love also truly believes, that every single person has an origin somewhere that's indigenous. And as far as this video right now, I'm specifically targeting Indigenous American ancestry. Authentic, ancient, authentic, ancient. I'll say it again. Authentic, ancient Indigenous American ancestry. Dig deep, baby. Dig deep. No more surfacey stuff. No more surfacey. Deeper. And a lot of these anthropologists and scientists and every other ist, they know. They know. And not every Indigenous American person has been here thousands of years, tens of thousands of years. Many of them migrated from other places. Let's not overlook that. Let's not do that. You have Indigenous American people, origins here, not anywhere else, here. Tens of thousands of years old bones that have been discovered here on this continent. And then you have other Indigenous American people that may have come over, 5,000 years ago, whatever, from other places, in different regions, different sections of Turtle Island, Central America, the Caribbean, South America, okay? And we all have our own customs and our own phenotypes. And a lot of people get caught up in the phenotypes. If you look at any old 1800s and back pictures, and when I say pictures, I'm also talking about these sketches from well-known artists, and how they show the phenotypes of people, the hair texture of people, how they're built, their body. They didn't all look alike. They didn't. It just depended on the region of the Americas. So people need to get over it. I'm from the Southeast USA. Indigenous populations down there, different customs, different belief systems, different ideologies, look different than someone in a Washington state or Alaska. But just because someone looks different, that does not mean that they're not indigenous to a region on a continent. Look at Africa, for instance. Not all Africans look alike. You have Africans in West Africa. Phenotypes look completely different from another African. And I'm not talking about North Africa versus Sub-Saharan. I'm not talking about that. That's another topic of discussion. But for right now, I'm just talking about Sub-Saharan Africa right now. They didn't all look alike just because they had dark skin. Their hair texture wasn't all the same. They had different curl patterns. But they're African. And they're Sub-Saharan African. But it doesn't stop there. It doesn't. It's deeper than that. It's tribal. You have chief and chiefess from different languages, spirituality, belief systems. It's deeper than that. So many languages. It's mind-blowing. Now back to the Americas. Some of us fail to realize that you have tribal and spiritual and political and all these different categories where people fit in that's totally different from another clan. And just because it's different, that does not mean they're not Indigenous American. Just because their skin is lighter does not necessarily mean they're not Indigenous American. Just because their eyes are blue does not necessarily mean that they're not Indigenous American. There may be some influences from other regions of the world. But at the end of the day, the region that those Indigenous American people lived in, you're going to see a common denominator. And those people over there look a certain way versus those over there or those that we see on TV or in today's time federally recognized. But guess what? There's more to America than the United States. And many of our brothers and sisters are not citizens of the United States. And many times they're treated as second and third and fourth class citizens. We're going into 2020, guys. And some people say 2020 vision. I've heard some people say that. It's time to open our eyes. Open our eyes. Open our eyes. Look past all of the distractions. And back to self-identification. It's time to not continue to halt who we are based on what the U.S. federal government says we are. No, not good enough anymore. And it never was good enough. It never will be. No. I honor my ancestors. And in this 2020 census, on paper, I am going to reclaim on paper my Indigenous American identity. Last time I did Indigenous American and Black. I did my tribal affiliation and Black. And by the way, the tribal affiliation is not federally recognized. That's not what we care about. We don't want to be on a leash. The goal is self-sufficiency. That's the goal. Being in good relations with nature. Being in good relations with our ancestors. That's who we answer to. Follow the colonized rules here and there, pay your taxes or whatever. Okay, great. Now is the time to buy back. No, at this point, there's not any time right now to be still trying to look for handouts from a system that was designed to stand on our shoulders and our backs. Enough of that. Grit your teeth and buy back that land. Buy it back. And a lot of us have relatives that have, come and gone. They have a piece of property somewhere where you don't want to live because there's nothing flashy, right? All the jobs aren't there, right? So you have to move away for work. You have to move away and go to school if you want to have a life of options and flexibility when it comes to finances, right? And many people have felt almost a catch-22, having to move away from land that you inherited. And what you do, you sell it for, chump change. Once upon a time, land was taken, right? Taken from your ancestors. They were manipulated out of their stewardship, not ownership, stewardship of their land, their family land, their ancestors' land, right? Their blood and tears in that land, right? But nowadays, people are just selling grandma's house or daddy's house or mama's house or Aunt Sue's house because you don't want to live there. You don't want to pay the taxes. It could be $100 a year. It's a piece of land that, there's no waterfront shopping center. Or all the things that I've grown to be accustomed to because I live in a very affluent area. We need to stop thinking that way. We need to know that the power is being stewards of land that's been passed down. That's how you build wealth. That's how you have a voice when you're dealing with the crooked political system. Whoever owns, I call it stewardship, but whoever owns that land, and if you have sets of families, same mindset, same way of living, then they set the rules for their community. And instead of waiting for the feds or the state government to give you a piece of paper and say, oh, you're officially recognized by our government. Now you can govern your community. Now you can have schools. Now you can have housing. No, that's good for some communities, but for the rest of us, there's a lot of money out there. A lot of money. And that money is going into a system, making beneficiaries of that system filthy rich and have power over our daily lives versus putting that money in our own communities so we can have the schools, so we can teach our children our ways. Yes, they should be able to read in English because that's the environment we live in. Yes, they should be able to know how to do math so they can balance a checkbook. But a priority in our school system is our identity and our culture, period. We wear our hair the way our ancestors wore their hair, period. If they wear their hair in braids, it's our identity. We don't have to answer to anyone how our children wear their hair to school. That's nonsense. We're going into 2020. We're still hearing about little girls being told how to wear their hair. Little boys telling them how to wear their hair. Our strength is in our hair. If your hair is kinky curly, let it be kinky curly. Your strength and your power is in your hair. Our ancestors lived through us. Don't suppress it. And again, based on your community, your tribal community, based on that and how they did things, you want to honor that. Some tribal communities shave their heads. It's okay. Some communities allow the hair to grow long. It's okay. But honor that. Because it's your people. Your traditions. Your way. And as long as it's empowering your people and your traditions, and you're not tearing other communities down, what's the problem? What's the problem? Yesterday was winter solstice. I'm sure some people who celebrate winter solstice probably would have loved to do something on their job for it, or within their community, or what community they think they have, where they currently live. But oh no, we don't want to upset people that don't follow the same schedule. Their schedule is Christmas and whatever else is out there that's going on right now as far as celebrating this time of year. Oh, we don't want to disturb that. I say all of this. 2020, for those who are watching now and will watch in the future, if you are Indigenous American, you're genetically connected to this continent, you honor your ancestors. On paper, honor your Indigenous American ancestors. Because if you put Black down, they're going to eliminate your Indigenous American ancestry. Your mama, your great-grandma, your great-great-great-grandma. They're going to eliminate that. How dare they? How dare they? They have no power. When you tap into your ancestors' strength, your spiritual team, nothing can stop you. Nothing. They must either get out the way or bow down. No other options. We reclaim who we are, and we've always been in the Americas. Not taken away from your other genetic connections. But we're talking about 2020 census right now. Speak for your ancestors. Speak. Speak. Remember them. And this is one way, not the only way, but one way to give them that voice. Now, I know I haven't been looking at these comments, and I'm sorry. I can see them scrolling down, so I'm going to go back and read them. Thank you for your patience. I was on a roll, and I didn't want to stop, what was coming up for me, okay? So thank you for being patient. I'm gonna go ahead and read them now. Let's see. Hi, sweet. Thanks for chiming in. Thank you. Thanks for chiming in. Ari says, I was born and raised in Massachusetts, but something was born in Georgia and dead in North Carolina. I've got to research my indigenous bloodline. Hey, Auntie Pooh. Hey. Again, y'all, Auntie Pooh is my sister, my blood sister, okay? Check her out, Auntie Pooh and Sade. Check her out. She's still working on her videos and things of that nature, but give her a like and subscribe, okay? Ari says, I'm no longer identified as Black or African American. Okay, I can understand that. Sweet says, my grandmother is from Peru. My son is Taino. His dad is from Dominican. His mom, full-blood Native. Okay, thanks for sharing. My sister says, preach. I was on the road, Pooch. I was on the road. Ari says, I know, right? She is preaching. I'm tuned in on every syllable. Chris Connor says, agreed. Hi, Chris. Thanks for chiming in. I think the low American Indian indigenous percentage results on these DNA tests are why many don't claim it as much. You know what? I've said this before and I'll say it again. Think of a triangle. Think of a triangle. Everything in the middle of this triangle, unfortunately, for a lot of these DNA tests, is not showing. They call this junk DNA. Whatever's in the middle, which is the majority of your DNA, right? They consider that junk, okay? That's what's not showing up. What's inside this triangle. Now, going up the side of this triangle might be the father, all the way back. That's more so for the men, right? Males can pick up their father side and the mother side, by the way. Typically, females pick up their mother's side. So their mama, her mama, all the way back, right? So whatever's in the middle of this triangle is considered junk DNA, and it's not. It's just unknown. It's what you consider dark energy. I've mentioned that before, dark energy, unknown, but it's very powerful. That is very powerful. And for instance, if you're a female and your Indigenous American or whatever is on your father's side and his father's side and his father's side, that probably is not going to show up on a female's DNA because it's in the junk DNA section. And that's what's messed up about DNA testing. Now, when it comes to paternal DNA tests, apparently that's pretty accurate. So if you were to connect with some tribal members or people that you are genetically connected to, but you don't have the paperwork, if someone in that community is nice enough to connect with you, let's say on 23andMe or something like that, to see if you guys are cousins, or, whatever, that maybe they would utilize that and be like, okay, she's connected through us through DNA to our clan. Not necessarily Native American, because some people are very afraid to take DNA tests and have that as a prerequisite to be Indigenous American on the tribal roads. Okay, that's another topic of discussion. But if you're talking about just being related to recognize tribal members, then the paternal DNA test may be the way to go. Okay, I hope I cleared that up for some of you guys. But yeah, junk DNA actually matters. And unfortunately, a lot of our Indigenous American roots may be locked in the DNA, junk DNA, in the middle of this triangle. So just think of it that way. Sweet says, that's right. I know your family tree. search and ask questions. Yes. Chris says that word Indian leads many to believe that all were the same so-called race because all were deliberately thrown under that number or that one title. Not true at all. True. I agree. I agree. Auntie Pooh said, power to the people. Pony Locks. Thanks for chiming in, Pony. Greetings to the host and to the nations. Wow, I think this is the first time I've seen you leave something in a chat box. So thank you so much for chiming in. American Seminole Indian. Peace to you, sis. Thanks for the build here. Well, thanks for chiming in. Thank you as well, American, because I don't think, have seen you in the chat box before. So I appreciate you chiming in. Thank you so much. You could have been doing anything else in the entire world, but you chose to watch and listen to what I have to say. So thank you. Ari says dark matter. Yes, dark matter. Dark matter. The dark matter is the unknown. It's very mysterious. If you think about the universe, all that darkness out there, excluding the stars that you see in the sky, and the moon, and in the planets and all that, just the darkness. That's dark matter. That's the unknown. That's the mystery of it all. The darkness. And again, I've said this in a previous video, for those who come from a Christian background and or have read the first book of Genesis, at the very beginning of that first chapter, it says in some scriptures, it says in a beginning, and that's another topic of discussion. But it says in the beginning, there was the Word, and the Word was God, right? So the point is, in the beginning, the Word created. So whenever we speak, we have to be very, very cautious. Because when we speak, in all actuality, we're casting spells. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God. And then when you speak, you're creating. But before that, it was dark matter. It was darkness. And some people think darkness is equal to evil or whatever like that. Not necessarily. Light comes out of darkness. Creation comes out of chaos. And again, dark matters. Whatever's unknown matters. Whatever is not revealed matters. And if you kind of line that up, people, or the dark people, like this, I represent dark people based on my melanin, and dark matter matters. Just saying. Mary says, whenever they don't understand something, they just ignore it or call it junk. Thank you. It's impossible for DNA to be junk. I also don't believe when they say we only use 10% of our brain. I guess that's junk too. Yeah, I agree with you. Ari says, beautiful mahogany complexion. Thank you. Yeah. Unfortunately, with a lot of the brainwashing, generation after generation after generation, many people, my complexion are darker, have struggled with appreciating that element of our genetic connection to dark matter, because we've been told subliminally and also directly that our skin is not light enough. And all this time, it was our strength, it was our power, it was our magic. And now guess what? Activation, okay? Activation. I'm sitting here looking at this headdress that my love has. Let's see. What do you call that? Before I say anything, I want to make sure I'm pronouncing it right. What is it called? Give me a moment, guys. What do you call that? I'll grab it real quick. This is what you wear at powwows, depending on your style of regalia. But this is his headdress he wears. Very Iroquois, typical style. Trying to remember the name of it. And that was so, out of the ordinary, because I wasn't talking about the headdress. It just caught my attention. What was it called? Like I said, it's very Iroquois. Okay, I see it. Gustoweh. That's what it's called. Gustoweh. 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 It's Iroquois Gustoweh headdress. That's what it is. Yeah. So anyway, and no, guys, I am not actively wearing regalia at powwows. I don't even know if I ever will, because I'm kind of over here more so than powwow dress. But anyway, I kind of was talking off the top of my head about the whole 2020 census and identifying yourself if you're genetically connected to Indigenous America. I'm talking about genetically connected, and maybe most of your life you were raised in a particular community based on maybe how you looked and or what the government told you were. And so now it's time to speak up for your ancestors that are here. I was thinking about my grandma, her gravesite. I haven't been back in some time now. I can't remember the last time I visited her gravesite, because I have so many relatives now that have passed on that are buried there. All I'm saying is I don't necessarily have to visit their sites, the grave sites, but their bones are here. That's what I'm trying to say. Their bones are here. Not in Africa. I'm genetically connected to Africa as well, but I'm talking about honoring my Indigenous American roots. Ari says, do you know Dane Calloway? Doesn't ring a bell. Maybe. Calloway, that surname rings a bell, but I'm not sure about Dane. He's based in Virginia. Sounds very familiar, but I can't remember off the top of my head. I apologize. Now I'm kind of talking a little bit more. I'm kind of shifting gears, still talking about Indigenous American identity, right? But I'm also going to talk a bit about the American Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. Okay. Now, before I read anything, there is notes as far as interpreting the delegation, right? Right to belong to the indigenous peoples. This was Article 8. And this, again, is a note to help you interpret it a little better. It says indigenous persons and communities have the right to belong to one or more indigenous peoples, plural, in accordance with the identity, traditions, customs, and systems of belonging of each people. No discrimination of any kind may arise from the exercise of such rights. So, traditions and customs. Now, this can get sticky because in some traditions and some cultures and customs or whatever, you are what your mother is, or your grandmother, or your great-grandmother. It's a maternal line versus paternal, right? So of all your Indigenous American connections on your father's side, and that particular tribal community goes by maternal, that's their tradition. That's how they do things. And you have to honor that. Now, you may not necessarily get a tribal card, but they'll probably still allow you to be who you are, to participate in the community's gatherings and do what you would typically do, but you just won't have a card. Now, if you care a lot about the card, then you may have to take some other steps to be a part of somebody else's group. But if you want to be true to your Indigenous American ancestry that just happen to be on your father's side, which they don't claim you as far as getting tribal card authorization, you can still participate and be a part of that community. You just don't have voting rights or whatever. You may not necessarily get support financially or whatever like that. But like I said, if you care a lot about those perks of having a tribal card, you may have to be a part of another group. And a lot of people have done that. Like, they may not necessarily been able to get that tribal community on their father's side to accept them, or maybe on their mother's side. That particular community may have went back 2-3 generations, but there's one Indigenous American and there's paperwork on it, and you just happen to be within compliance with their rules and their customs and traditions. They may accept you. You have more blood on your daddy's side, but based on their traditions and customs, they don't see that as valid. So you have to consider that too, guys. Yes, it sucks. That blood didn't go nowhere. Them ancestors didn't go anywhere. But if it's all about money, and if it's all about getting that card so you can flash it, so you can dance and compete at certain powwows, you may have to find another way, find somebody else in another tribe that will accept you. Me personally, if most of my Indigenous American ancestry is over here on daddy's side, and that's what I know, guess what? That's who I am. Just saying. So anyway, let me go back up to Section 1, Indigenous Peoples' Scope of Application. Article 1, Number 1, the American Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples applies to the indigenous peoples of Americas. Okay? Indigenous meaning original people, as far back as you can go, whatever. 2, self-identification as indigenous peoples will be a fundamental criteria for determining whom this declaration applies. The states shall, and states meaning nations, okay? Not necessarily like Virginia and West Virginia and Georgia. No, the states shall respect the right to such self-identification as indigenous, individually or collectively. I'm gonna say that again, individually or collectively, as an individual person or within your tribal community as your tribal clan or band or, nation, okay? In keeping with the practices and institutions of each indigenous people. Okay. Let me just jump down a little bit down here. Let's see. Indigenous peoples, this is Article 11. Indigenous peoples have the right to not be subjected to any form of genocide or attempts to exterminate them. I repeat, indigenous people have the right to not be subjected to any form of genocide or attempts to exterminate them. Any form. Any form. And many of us know that the most recent form of genocide is on paper. Yes, on paper. So they can cross you out and write whatever they think you are on paper. There's so many people on paper that their identity has been stripped away from them. And depending on what region you're from or what state you're from, if they only allow 2 categories and you happen to kind of blend in with one of them, they'll dump you over there. If you look white, they'll put you in the white category. You have many indigenous American people that look very much like white people. You have Black people, and they have genetic markers in different regions of the world. But they may not necessarily look sub-Saharan Black because of all the mixture. And sometimes you do have that throwback DNA. And then sometimes you have a regular looking Black person with all the features that a typical African Black person would have. Have kids with a typical white person, and the kids look white. Think of Sally Hemings, and think of all these other people that had children by a white person, and how the kids could pass for white. No one blinked an eye. But them ancestors still lived through them. Enough of that. Enough of that passing. Enough of that. No more of that. Article 13. This is under Section 3, Culture Identity. It says indigenous peoples have the right to their own cultural identity and integrity and to their cultural heritage, both tangible and intangible, including historic and ancestral heritage, and to the protection, preservation, maintenance, and development of that cultural heritage for their collective continuity and that of their members, and so as to transmit that heritage to future generations. So guess what? If you were put in a box from day one as a child, and later in life, you discover what's been there the entire time, and now you want to tap into that culture that was hidden from you or diluted or whatever, you have the right to. You have the right to. It's okay. It's okay. And I'm not going to necessarily read every single thing. What I'm going to do, for those who are not familiar with this declaration, I'm just going to put the link in the description box, and then you can check it out later. You can read through it later. This was actually established and approved and everything back in 2016. So it's fairly new. This is also linked to United Nations, by the way. And that's another beast in and of itself when it comes to federally recognized nations, tribes in the United States seeking the United Nations for assistance or whatever when it comes to their rights and things of that nature. So I'm not familiar with that aspect of the United Nations as far as communicating with federal recognized tribes. But anyway, you can Google it, maybe go to a federal library and learn more about that. But for the sake of this particular video, we're only talking about self-identification right now. Okay. Let's see. Anybody else say anything? Let's see. Sweet says, why not get more involved in your native roots? Exactly. Now, I think a good way to kind of get started is, as far as communicating with people, interacting with people, probably be going to like a native inspired festival. Sometimes they call them powwows. Sometimes they call them gatherings. And then that way you can kind of just walk around and, you know, talk with some of the vendors and some other indigenous people and things of that nature to kind of, you know, connect with people, you know. For me, it was more so the internet. And when I say the internet, look, I met a ton of people later in real life, but I met a ton of people when I was researching my local hometown and all of the connections and stuff there, which, I mean, as far as putting a name on the indigenous people there, it was less of that and more about learning more about other people within that community or other people within that town that's also connected to those Indigenous American people. And then from there, I ended up going to a powwow. I mentioned this before in one of my older, like way back videos, that I worked at McDonald's when I was in high school. And I believe they start having powwows at the state park. I want to say it was maybe mid-90s. And my group of people, we didn't do powwows. This was a out west thing, I guess. But I think people who wanted to highlight Indigenous American people that are still alive and well and living and working amongst regular people that aren't Indigenous American, just to let them know we're not historical figures. We're not mascots. We're not, you know, some mystical, magical group of people that you couldn't relate to, right? Because you thought everybody had died or either went to Oklahoma. Not the case. By the way, not the case. But yeah, so I remember I was working the drive-thru and I saw so many people that look, you know, one thing about my people, if I see Indigenous and the Black combination, I can pick them out a mile away. But I just assume that everybody has somewhat of the same kind of connection as far as genetics. So it didn't really, it didn't, I didn't notice it. Let's just put it that way. And then I started seeing more people that look more Indigenous American. I was like, yeah, he looks Native. Or he looks, as I used to say, Indian. He looked Indian, yeah. And then several people that were on their way to that powwow, they were coming from Canada. They were coming from Ohio, Pennsylvania, all these places, right? They were coming to honor their ancestors, their origins, right in my little town, right? So, long story short, a few people were like, are you Indian? And the first thing I said was, I have Indian blood in my family. And initially it used to, believe it or not, it used to offend me. Because I'm like, why would this person ask me my ancestry and they don't know me? And it still bothers me a little bit these days. I mean, I kind of got over it, but once upon a time, it did bother me. Like, I want you to get to know me first. And if I feel open enough to share my history, then I'll show you. But don't let that be the first thing come out your mouth. Do you have Indian in your family? But I mean, I get it now. I try not to take offense to it. But back then I got pissed off and I was like, yeah, I got Indian blood in my family. Like with an attitude. And by the third, fourth time, people asking me this. And then another person said, oh, you should come to the powwow. We're having a powwow at the park. I'm like, a powwow? What's that? Oh, a lot of Indian Native people get together and dance. I'm like, well, I guess. That was the first time I heard of a powwow in the mid-90s. Like, what the hell is a powwow? And then eventually, probably 10 years later, I end up going to the same powwow in my hometown. And that actually sparked interest in me knowing more about what was already there, pretty much. It's just unveiling what was already there. I mean, I didn't become Indigenous American overnight. No, it was there. Always been there. Always been there. But being colonized and people being afraid, a lot of the old people were afraid to share that information with their descendants or their offspring or grandkids or whatever, because there was fear. There was fear. So they felt it would be in our best interest to learn, I would say, the white man's ways. Talk like them, sit up straight like them, learn their words, go to their schools. Don't rock the boat. So half the time, a lot of the stuff that went down back home, a lot of that stuff, I would say they chose not to talk too much about it. And it's almost like now a lot of the older people have passed on. They didn't share a lot of that stuff. And so, it's like putting the pieces back together. But anyway, I say all of this because, just to know that so many people came to my little old town where I was raised, right? They came back to honor the origin, their Indigenous American origin. They came to my town. And here I am living in this town. And that history was, hidden. And of course you have markers, they name roads after certain Native American names and parks and things of that nature. But unless it's George Washington or something like that, you're not going to learn about it in your history books. You got to dig for that. And so as an adult, I began to dig. As an adult, I began to dig. I began to ask questions. That's just how it is. Now, I do commend generations that came after me, right? There are a couple of, I guess maybe one generation behind me. I don't want to go too far. But they've been taught to be proud of who they are. And if it's indigenous and if they're brought up in that culture, you better know how to speak that language. You better know your clan. That's how you introduce yourself. And remember, I told you, it used to get on my nerves when people, the first thing they would ask is, what tribe are you? Where are you from? Da, da, da. I'm learning that as far as some cultures, the first thing you do when you introduce yourself, you talk about your clan, where you come from. And in some cases, you speak that language before you speak English. English was not here first. English was not spoken here first. Right? And I mean, I understand now many people are so caught up in everyday lives, you know, trying to get by, paying bills and all that. The last thing they want to do is spend a whole lot of time learning a new language, right? Or learning something traditional within their tribe community that they're just learning about, maybe. You know, all of that is taking all those years that you spent here on earth and starting all over again, but in a different mindset, a different culture, a different language, even a different spirituality. It's not really different. It's been there the whole time, the entire time. But now you're starting to wake up. You're starting to wake up. And again, 2020 vision, 2020. Open your eyes. Open your eyes. Open your eye. Okay, so anybody else has anything else to say? Like I said, read the American Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. Also connected to United Nations. We have the right to self-identify. And of course you will have people that will make up stuff just so they can feel special. And it's not the truth. But guess what? That should not eliminate everybody else. That's not an excuse anymore. It's just not. It's not an excuse anymore to eliminate people who may not have been raised in a particular culture or tradition. And now they're learning later in life the truth, the hidden truth. Step aside. Those who promote genocide, step aside. If you promote living in a island mentality, like this is our piece of the pie, and we're going to play on the colonizers' side of the table so we can keep our piece of pie. We don't want no one else to have any. So that means everybody else are fake. They're trying to take our culture. Really. So everybody that was not raised in their traditional ways, indigenously, the indigeneity was hidden. And now as grown adults, now they're fake. Really? Now they're fake because they were brought up in a culture that was somewhat truthful. There was some truth there, but it wasn't a complete truth. But yet, when they wake up, they're taking your culture. that sends some insecurity, because if you were so secure in who you are, you could care less what the next person is doing. You can care less when they found their complete identity. So I guess you're an advocate for people to stay asleep so you can get a large percentage of the crumbs from your master's table. Sorry, time's up. You're going to feel that whoosh, that wave, the gust of wind, all the elements. You're going to feel that. And if you're in the way, you have to step aside. You either step aside or embrace us. Because guess what? Our ancestors, maybe your ancestors, and they're not pleased. They're not. We're family. We're family. Chad Murdoch says, all your words are powerful, Empress. Oh, thank you. Pony says, facts. Sweet says, you are talking real good. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. Thank you. I'm sure I'm not the only one that feels this way. I'm sure I am not the only one. But you have a lot of individuals who also play the game for their benefit. And all that's doing is contributing to the genocide. All that's doing is weakening how powerful we could be. Power. Power. You sitting out here on your own mental island, your own mentality over here on this island. That's not helping. That's just you and yours, right? You and yours. But when you have an army, we have an army. There's more power. And not power to break another community down, because that's the problem. That's how we got to this. Because you had a group of people or peoples that felt the need to break another peoples down, to stand on their backs. There's more, there's so much for everybody. That's more than enough. More than enough. More than enough. So that whole scarcity mindset, it has to stop. That's the problem. When people go and attack people and try to make them the way they want them to be, try to oppress them and suppress them, that is a sign of fear and insecurity. It's a sign of insecurity. Let's go break them down before they break us down. While we over here drinking clean water from the creek, and this is bottled water, but you get the point. Mind our business. Ain't thinking about you across the pond. But you think that everybody's out to get you. So what you do? You conquer. You go in and you invade villages. You kill the men. You kill and or rape the women and children. And you take. So what do you expect? You expect people to sit there and not defend themselves? 2020. 2020. 2020. Enough of that. Enough. Enough. No more. No. This whole system. This whole system. There must be chaos before there's a new birth or renewing or annewing. In order to balance the scales. Right now we're dealing with a lot of chaos. There's a reason. There's a reason why we're dealing with a lot of chaos. Worldwide. Even in the universe. Chaos. Yeah. It must happen. Yeah, you could take this on the whole religious thing. Go ahead. 2020. There has to be a breaking down of this current system in order to rebuild it up, in order to balance it. It's a complete circus right about now. Complete circus. But in due time, the last shall be first. And for centuries, there's been groups of people who've been at the bottom of the totem pole. Bottom. Dark matter matters, guys. Remember I said that. Hashtag dark matter matters. Just saying. As I apply my lip gloss. Y'all. If you've been watching me for a minute, you know I've been also very much into law of attraction, into scribing, into burning my candles, into natural ways to be in control of my reality. And when 2020 comes, your girl is going to be on top. Your girl is going to be first. The last shall be first. Just saying. So all you guys out there that feel like there's always something coming up, somebody always gets there before you do. You've always been the one to get the tail end of the stick. No more. No more. So you know what? You sit back and you pass the popcorn. Hashtag pass the popcorn and watch it all fall down. Our ancestors are done. I choose to be on the right side of history because I am on the right side of history. I inherited the right side of history. Dark matter matters. Just saying. Okay, let me read the comments. Sorry, guys. So So Chad said, I noticed Irish Total hijacked our primitive clay pipe technique. Okay. Xavier says, I know this is off topic, but you're very beautiful. Oh, thank you, Xavier. Thank you so much. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. I truly believe that. And I know I'm not beautiful in many people's eyes. And that's okay. That's okay, because I'm not meant to be beautiful to everybody. But obviously, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. You behold my beauty. I thank you. Pony says, this is why Indigenous families should recognize themselves instead of some foreign government. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, that was right on. That was right on. Chad says, scaremongering empress. Yep, and comes from scarcity, straight from the springs and rivers. Okay, you must have been talking about when I was talking about the bottled water. I get you. I definitely do. Chad says, it all Masonic. Through chaos, they seize order. But even in the eye of the storm, it remains silent. It coming the time we want to reach the eye of the storm. Okay, I'm gonna stop there. I had a dream last week, I think, or the week before last. I didn't talk too much about it. But get this. In this dream, there was a tornado forming. And this is not my first time having a dream about a tornado, okay? I am air element, by the way. My zodiac sign is an air sign. Balance, air sign, okay? So now I recognize that. So in my dream, I was like, oh no, but I knew it was a dream. And no lie, in the funnel of this tornado that did not touch down, by the way, there was a face or a head that turned around in the funnel. And it looked at me and smirked like, and then the forming funnel went up and it broke away. But then seconds later, another tornado actually was a water spout. So it was over water. So you had the element of water, and then you had air, right? So when I read your comment, Chad, you said, even in the eye of the storm, it remains silent, and it coming the time we going to reach the eye of the storm. I'm gonna see if I can try to figure out that, and as far as that dream I had. That's interesting that you mentioned that. The eye, because I saw eyes in the storm, right? I saw eyes in the storm, and it smirked at me. Because at first, like I said, in the dream, I knew it was a dream. So it was almost like astral, I guess you can say, dream, when you know it's a dream. And I was like, no. And it kind of smirked at me like, okay, now you understand. Now you understand how to change your dream reality. And it kind of went away. But it did have two eyes, and it smirked at me. Okay. Sweet says, girl, you are so funny. Great sense of humor. Thank you. You have to have a sense of humor. You can't be serious all the time. Because then you have high blood pressure and you'll have a stroke and, fall over and die. Okay. Chad says, I truly believe that. I'm trying to be on top by next year too. Yeah. Pony says, powerful dark substances matters too when doing rituals. Tobacco, cinnamon, coffee, sage, ginger. Yeah, I agree. Yep. Cinnamon. I'm thinking of nutmeg. Yeah. Dark substances. Dark stones. Yeah. Dark in general. Dark in general. I was on my way to visit my oldest nephew last week, just for a couple of hours. Never been to his place before. Yeah, lucid dreaming. I said astral, right? I meant lucid. So I went to my nephew's place, and on my way there, I felt a little nervous. And the reason why is because I've been away from the country living for so long. I'm used to street lights and cars everywhere. So when you go back there in the boonies, you don't have lines on the road, you don't have no street lights. And so I almost felt a little tense when I was driving. And then I remember reminding myself, no, this is my land. This is where I'm from. I'm protected. This is not a foreign space. This is my land. So no, I'm not going to be afraid. And as soon as I reminded myself that, I saw a black cat run across the road. And I mean, initially, growing up, you think black cats, bad omen or whatever like that. It's not the case. Black cats are very lucky. And I remember saying out loud verbally, I said, thank you, black cat, or hi, kitty cat, or something I said like that. So it's like once I reminded myself that I'm protected and I am not going to be afraid of my home. And I saw that black cat run across the road. It literally was like almost like confirmation or reminder. No, you are protected. You are not going to be afraid driving on a back road where you're from. No, you're not doing that. So yeah, I thought about that. Again, happy winter solstice. That was yesterday, obviously. Oh, I don't know if I mentioned that in this video. I probably didn't, but yesterday, again, winter solstice. Mr. found in the attic, found a lightning bug still alive. And he didn't realize it was a lightning bug until later he saw the back of the bug, the spots, whatever, on the back of the bug. But it was a lightning bug. On winter solstice. And one thing lightning bugs symbolizes, apparently, from what I've learned, is that they symbolize hope and illumination. And I thought that was very interesting because the winter solstice is also a time of rebirth and hope and all that, and to be thankful and to let go of what's not serving you. And many of us, including me, hold on to stuff because we feel like if we hold on a little bit longer, then it will work out. And most of the time it does, But at the same time, is it benefiting you at all? Or is it just benefiting other people? It's okay to let go of stuff, not necessarily all at one time. You got to kind of gradually let go of things. But it's okay to let go of what's not serving you, especially if you've been doing this over and over again, whatever it may be. Let go. And it's funny because in that attic, part of being in the attic is letting go of stuff that just it doesn't serve you. Let it go. Whatever's in the attic, you hadn't looked at in 20 years or, 6 months, you're not going to use it. You don't need it. Yeah, it may be symbolic about something in life in the past, but it's time to make room for greatness. And if it's been collecting dust and holding up space, it's not serving you. Unless it's an antique, and that's the difference. And what I would love is to have a professional antique appraiser go through not just this house, but my dad's house and anybody else's house that got a lot of old stuff, like Sanford and Son type situation in the yard, okay? Have an antique assessment specialist go in and assess how much things are worth. But anyway, long story short, the lightning bug was found in the attic, still alive, on winter solstice. And in my opinion, the way I interpret it is it means it's okay to let go what's not serving you. It's okay. It's okay. Let it go and make room for greatness. It's okay. So anyway, that's where I got from winter solstice. And I don't do full-blown gatherings or ceremonies or anything like that, because that's not necessarily something I have been accustomed to most of my life. Christmas, obviously, but I haven't celebrated Christmas in several years. And I have my reasons. I think in and of itself, this Christmas holiday is based on commercial profit and all of that. And I know things change over the years, but for me, the spirit of giving is beautiful, right? The spirit of giving is beautiful. Give, you know? But at this point, it has gotten out of control. It really has. It has gotten out of control. Yeah, Chad said that's right. It has. I was like, once upon a time, wasn't it all about children, right? You know, a little baby doll or a toy, you know, truck or something or whatever the children wanted. It was like, wasn't it based on children believing in the spirit of Santa Claus and toys and stuff? I understand the whole Christian aspect of it. I know there's a battle between Santa Claus and Jesus, right? I get that. But I always thought when it comes to the gift giving, I always thought that it was children, Santa Claus, and all of that. And then also reiterate the fact that baby Jesus was born. By the way, he was not born on December 25th. Okay. Many people believe that Jesus was born then, but apparently he was born in September. Okay. Anyway, so I just got tired of the commercial aspect and the pressure, right? You already have the main people in your life that you want to give gifts to. Then you feel pressure with other people that's outside of your family that's trying to give you gifts. And then you feel obligated to give them a gift. And then you have a stupid Secret Santa at work. And then everybody wants to participate in that. And then you happen to be the oddball because you're not participating. And it got to the point I said, you know what? I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. Whoever wants to give me something, I let them know straight up I don't celebrate it. No, I'm not a Jehovah's Witness. I do not celebrate it. It's just too much. It's too commercialized. Now, if it's a family dinner, right? Spending time with family, they got some sense. Because not everybody in your family got sense, but the ones that got sense, okay, I'll carve out time for you. But, you know, family get-togethers, focusing on the children, you know, make sure they have something to play with or whatever. You know, give them little gifts and stuff. That's different, you know. Talk about the spirit of giving and all of that. That's beautiful. But this whole thing, when people start talking about Christmas in September, Halloween ain't even got here yet. October is my birthday month, okay? And y'all done bypassed my birthday month. Went straight to Christmas. They ain't even said nothing about no Halloween. Ain't said nothing about no Thanksgiving. Y'all already talking about Christmas. So it's like, and then some people don't know how to let it go. Once Christmas in, they still holding on to Christmas until February. Groundhog's Day. It's just too much. I do understand some people keep Christmas trees in the house all year round, and they decorate their trees based on the season or holiday, you know, maybe Easter eggs on their Christmas tree. That's fine. That's a beautiful thing. If that makes you happy, wonderful. But the rest of us, we do not have to suffer through all of that and feeling like we have to go into debt. To me, personally, Christmas, today's Christmas, is for rich people. Not for broke people, people living from paycheck to paycheck. I'm sorry. It wasn't for you. It's for the rich people. And I was brought up in a household where Christmas was nice and Christmas was magnified because they wanted us to have a nice Christmas. But guess what? They didn't pay their bills. The whole month of December, nobody got paid but Santa Claus. Nobody got paid. And then what? Guess what? Then you got to do, used to call it rapid refund. So you don't get your whole tax return. You only get a percentage because you got to hurry up and pay the bill collectors so they don't cut your lights off or kick you out of the house. So that was my experience with Christmas. My experience with Christmas was, yeah, Santa Claus showed up, but why are you talking about tax money and paying the bills? Now, as an adult, as I've grown up, I'm like, don't give me nothing because you don't have the money. Why do you feel obligated to go into debt? For a grown person, I'm not even a child anymore. For a grown person, why do you feel the need to go into debt? It is not that serious. Again, if you have kids, I'm sure there's some pressure there because they go to a public school and everybody else is getting the newest and the shiniest toy and they want to participate and they want to be part of that. That's another layer of pressure on families. The subliminal messages, TV ads. Like I literally was watching TV with my youngest niece and nephew, right? And we were watching cartoons on, I think, Nickelodeon or something. And they were so excited to see the commercials. You know why? Because commercials was targeted children with Christmas and the newest and brightest and the best toys that's out there. And their eyes were just glued to the screen like this. I want that. I want that. I want that. And all that does is put pressure on the guardians in families and communities and just across the board. So you know what? That's the one main reason why I'm done with Christmas. And I've been done with Christmas, I think, about 5 or 6 years now. If you want to give me a gift, great. I'm not going to stop you from experiencing the spirit of giving. Because some people, they love to give. And I'm not going to take that away from them. But just so you know, I'm not giving you nothing. No, I'm not doing Christmas. Sorry. It's too much in this world to be concerned about than to be going in debt, trying to give something to someone that they may not even want it. They may not find value in it. They may re-gift it. So no, I'm not. Sorry, I'm just not. Pony says, now it's all about adults and Black Friday and trampling over each other. Exactly. I remember when I first moved to the DC area. That was a couple of decades ago, maybe. And I started hearing about Black Friday. I'm like, what is a Black Friday? What is that? Oh, so people go shopping on the Friday after Thanksgiving and call that Black Friday. Maybe this is a Northern Virginia thing. That's what I thought. Maybe this is just a regional thing. But apparently it wasn't. I think they just decided to market it as Black Friday, and now all of a sudden it's a thing, you know. But yeah, you're not gonna catch me in any stores on Black Friday. Sorry. Nope. And I'd be damned if I'm gonna go to a Walmart. You just asking. You're just asking for me to unleash my chaotic side. I don't want to jeopardize my my character. So I choose to stay away from places like that. Okay, Chad says, Saturnalia, a Greek holiday mixed with pagan winter solstice rituals. Yeah, I learned a few years ago how Christmas is full of pagan connections. And a lot of people don't know that. They happen to be Christian. Right? They don't know. I learned. But, you know, I still believe in aspects of the Bible. I definitely believe in Yeshua. But I don't believe in everything that's in that Bible. And a lot of times people who are like hardcore Christians, or they think they are, they are just determined not to give up that Christmas tree. And I'm like, okay, well, just so you know the origins of all of that stuff that you put in your house that you oppose to, right? You oppose of that stuff. You got it in your house. You got the wreath on the door. You got the tree up. You got the star on the tree. And all this other fixings and stuff that's traditional within, you know, the Christmas holiday. You're bringing all that in your house, but yet you're so opposed to it. Doesn't make sense to me. It just doesn't. It just doesn't make sense to me. So you cool with Christmas, but you're not cool with other aspects of belief systems that you call pagan, that's outside of your book. Something don't add up, right? Something don't add up. So anyway, is there anything else I would like to talk about with you guys before I end this video? Because it's going on 2 hours now. Is there anything else that I want to talk about? Well, I will be relocating officially this Friday. So Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, I don't obviously have to work. So those 2 days, I'm going to wrap things up. And Friday, I will be officially out of this space and probably will be staying in hotels or Airbnbs for several weeks, if not 2 to 3 months. So kind of in that transitional phase right now, because I have things that I need to wrap up in this area with my job before I take the leap to where I will be. And more than likely, it's probably going to be somewhere on the coast of Virginia or North Carolina. So we've been looking at the temperature, the weather, and everything like that. So I've already put my request in. The travel weather and the unpacking weather and the packing, driving, and unpacking weather. It's going to be perfect. No snow, no sleet, none of that. Plus, where we're going to be relocating is between 12 and 15 degrees warmer than this place. And even though there's a few days, obviously, that have to pass before we're officially seeing the real temperatures, because you know, just because you're looking at a 10-day forecast, that doesn't necessarily mean that that temperature is going to be the same come that day. But I say by Thursday, then that's a good enough chance that whatever happens Friday, Saturday, and Sunday is going to be legit, typically. So according to the temperature in the forecast as of today, the weather down there is going to be pretty dry, somewhat cloudy, and the highs are going to be like in the low 60s, and the lows are going to be in the low 50s. So I've already put in my request with my law of attraction, everything else. I choose for the travel day and the packing day and the unpacking day, probably going to be about 3 days total. Perfect. And all the people out there that drove to grandma's house for the holidays, keep you behind there until after the new year. We don't need you on the road. So yes, it's It's going to all work out. You got to make room for greatness. Being here served this purpose. Now it's time to move on. Time to move on. Time to get up out of here. Plus, I prefer living near the water. And I'm talking about the big water. I'm talking about the big water. And so, I'll give you guys more information. I might do a little vlogging about the experience and post experience. I might. I may also talk more about transitioning to this location, and it will be revealed eventually, not just yet, because I'm still tying some strings. But within the next 2 to 3 months, I'll probably share that and go from there. But yeah, that's pretty much it for me for this video. I have nothing else really to say. I may participate in a sweat to bring in the new year. Because I'm not sure about the weather. If the weather's kind of jacked, I don't know. But I think that's a really good way to bring in the new year. Don't you think? Years ago, I would bring in the new year in church. Watch hour. That's what they would call it. And I used to love that. You know, I loved bringing in a new year in a praise kind of atmosphere, right? And so this year, I think I'm gonna do something a bit traditional and low key. And the traditional low key way would be to go inside the womb. Go inside the womb. Cleanse in the womb. And then once the new year is here, open up that flap and crawl out of the womb. Cleansed. Entering into 2020. Eyes wide open. Eyes wide open. Because that strength and that discernment and that wisdom and intellect is in here. All of the experiences is in our DNA. It's there. We just have to recognize it. And so I'm going to end it there. Chad says, this live was a wonderful live stream. Thank you, Empress. Empress. I kind of like the sound of that. Thank you. Thank you guys for watching. Everyone who chimed in, I appreciate you. All the people that chimed in. It's the first time I saw you comment. Thank you so much. I don't know how long you've been watching my videos. But anyway, thank you. Welcome. I appreciate you. Thank you guys so much. You could have been doing anything else but hearing and watching me talk. So thank you so much. Be blessed. Be a blessing to others. And until next time, toodles. Enjoy your loved ones and be grateful and be thankful. Take care. Bye-bye.